Hey y'all, got the Bulldog on the channel. I figure I'd start a series here and I'll be able to piece it together later. You've heard me talk about this tractor that needs all rewired. I'm going to show you before I take it apart why we're doing what we're doing and what it looked like beforehand. Here's under the dash. Just a mess. I mean, everything is cooked. Here's the wires to the ammeter. The other wire to the ammeter. Things jumping around. This is the plug-in that I have to save. So I'm going to have to take the wires out of it, solder new wires on it. And then the new harness is the one that plugs into it down here, this piece. So all this lighting stuff, I don't know if that comes with the harness. I'll do what I can. The fuel gauge didn't work because it's not hooked up. It wasn't hooked up before. So we'll hook that up and see if it works. I mean, if it does, great. If it don't, oh well. Oh well. All right. I'm back working on the tractor in the daylight, which is nice, kinda. I'm trying to show you what all I'm doing here. Here's the dash, and this itty bitty dinky little wiring harness is all they sell for the entire tractor. So I'm going to have to make the most of what I got. This plugs into that plug that's up there by the fuel tank, and I'll have to take and cut that off and wire in wires kind of where they need to be. This is what's going to be powering my gauges. I took that amp meter out. That's toasted. And I had this voltmeter, and I'm going to use this voltmeter here instead. That eliminates a lot of big wires, and honestly, you're better off with a voltmeter as long as you watch it. An amp meter, the way an amp meter works is it's kind of like a paddle, an electrical paddle. And you'll see the D and the C on there. The D is discharge, the C is charge. And it just kind of bends towards where the amps are going. If your alternator is not charging and you're using power inside, it's going to bend that thing over towards the D to discharge. And it says, hey, I'm discharging. When your batteries are down, you start it up and it starts charging. The amps are going towards the battery and it bends the needle towards the charge. That's how they work. It's great except for the fact that you've got to run all of your charging amperage through that gauge. Whereas a voltmeter, you just hook it up to 12 volts. It's non-invasive. That's why I'm doing this. I got these wires hooked into it. This is an air filter warning that I'm not going to use. It's just filling a hole right now. The wiring going forward on the tractor is cooked. I'm going to have to pull it off, take it all apart. And I've got some heavy wire here to run up to the alternator for the charge wire. And I am going to hook up the trigger for the alternator through the main relay. I've got a relay here, a Bosch relay, so that I can hook it up to where there's not a lot of load going through the wires at all times. I want everything. This didn't have any fuses on it at all that I could find. It probably had fusible links, but they didn't work. I mean, everything's cooked off of it. So we're going to try to put it back with some safeties when we go. All right, we're showing you some of what I took out of this pig. Looky there. That's the alternator wire running up there to the amp meter. Just bare. That was underneath the hood. There's a hood that goes along the spine of the tractor up there on top. There it's sitting over there. But these wires, I mean, look at them. They're just bare everywhere. Somewhere or another it cooked something and got it up against something, and it just boiled everything out, boiled the batteries out. There's wiring. There's had oil leak in that column. I think I got that fixed. And just everything, hodgepodge patch, burned up ends. It's down there at the starter. Based on the alternator here, and I expect this thing got kind of hot. I unplugged the plug, or I thought was the plug, out of the side of the alternator, and I felt it back in there, and there's just terminals. Oh, somebody just stuck some terminals in it instead of actually having a plug, and I unplugged them. One of them unplugged, the other one just broke the wire off. So, okay, well, whatever, I'll have to get a plug. I got a plug, I got it wired in, and then I went to plug it in, it wouldn't go in there. Here's the plug that I bought. I got it wired in, got the battery charge wire looped around, and got some ends soldered to it, and got the signal wire running up the looming here. And back right here, that's where the plug goes. And see here, you can see it. Plugs in right there in a convenient spot pointed right straight to the engine block. Well, their new plug wouldn't go in there, and I was wondering why. Got the mirror and looked, and look at that. There was a plug. It just melted to nothing. That's the first time I've ever seen that happen. I fought that stupid thing for 45 minutes last night trying to get it out. And that's why sometimes a mechanic gives up. He says, I gotta have the tool. I gotta have the right tool. These little needle nose here, curved in, itty bitty little things, worthless junk, until you need to reach up around something like this, grab it and pull it out. That's why we have so many tools. The number of times you end up with, there is only one thing that'll do the job. It's just how it is. Now I hooked up the fuel gauge there, and miraculously, it works. But I got the wire running up there from that conglomeration, running back here in looming, and I spliced it off right here. This is the supply voltage that runs down around the fuel tank to the starter. I'll show you here in a minute. And here's the alternator charge wire and exciter wire running up here through the factory grommets and everything. It loops down around the front to the alternator. There's where it hooks into the alternator. Got a new plug in it because the other one melted and there was just a hunk of plastic in there. That terminal looked like it was cooked and barbecued, but surprisingly, that alternator works. When I first fired it up and let it run, it was not charging. I went in there to get a voltmeter, came back out. By the time I came back out, it was charging. So, I mean, those things are cheap if he has to replace it, but if he don't, then he don't. But there's factory clips that run up through here, around behind everything, and up around. I'm going to pull it out away from the block and zip tie it to this, that, and the other so it's protected. And here's where the wire comes down through the frame, and I've got it spliced into the solenoid on the hot wire, and I've got a main fuse right there so that if something like that happens again, it won't blow up. This kind of looks like a rat's nest, but it's functional. All these wires over here, that's for when we put lights on the tractor. We'll use all that when we do that. I'm going to clip all this stuff up, pretty it up, and armor it where I can to make sure it doesn't rub. But other than that, this tractor is done. You remember me saying this thing was a rat's nest? Look at that. That column in there, down in that, was packed clear full all the way up here to the wheel. Found a date on this air filter here. I think it's been in there a while. And when I had the air filters out changing them, I saw that the air intake tube was plugged completely full of shag carpet. I think they made the wrong choice when they put a carpeted interior in this thing. I got in a hurry this morning trying to get all this done, forgot to shoot an outro on it, but we got all the tins back on it. I already had the batteries back in there, and I changed the hydraulic fluid oil and the filter on that. We're missing some covers, but oh well. But she's completely rewired and ready to go. I also changed the alternator belt. He's in here at the service station in town. Gonna get new tires put on it, because these tires have been on there since the Nixon administration. So they're just kind of getting time. So that'll do it for this series on this tractor here. Like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. Talk to you later.